Thanks for staying with us here on TVC Breakfast. Persons living with disabilities are globally and widely recognized as being socially disadvantaged, and as a result, they face numerous deprivations and denials of their rights. In Nigeria, there are more than 25 million people living with disability. Accessing facilities at airports is a difficult task for persons living with disabilities in Nigeria, as these facilities are not built with consideration to their plight and welfare. According to the Executive Director, Center for Citizens with Disability, David Anyile, factors such as non-functioning elevators, lack of ramps, absence of sign language communicators, among others, have made air travel a horrible experience for persons with disabilities. And David Anyile joins me in the studio to talk more on this. Thank you so much for being with us here on TVC Breakfast.
Thank you for bringing me.
Right, so talk to us about the challenges faced by persons with disabilities in the Nigerian airports.
Yeah, over the years, people with disabilities, have been crying on their experiences vis-a-vis their interface with aircraft, airport facilities. Sometimes they are denied flying by reason of their disability. Sometimes you see them carrying them like sack bag to the aircraft. The most horrible aspect of it is that these things happen at a time they least expect. As such, you see this cry all over the disability community. What can we do? What is going on? So it draws our attention to ask questions. Why must this be this? Why must it be so? Recognizing that we have enabling laws, including the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority regulations around, aviation activities, provides for the respect of the rights of people with disabilities to access aircraft as well as airport facilities. Recognizing also that the Discrimination Against Persons with Disability Prohibition Act, Section 14, made robust provision to enhance access and stressless experience while at the airport. Regrettably, what we have seen in the recent past includes that airline operators care less about what people with disabilities experience in boarding their aircraft. The fan authority also are not putting appropriate measure in order to ensure that access to airport among persons with disabilities in Nigeria is enhanced. NCAA is also not implementing relevant laws and sections that has to do with people with disabilities accessing aircraft and airport. So what we try to do is to, through our coalition, the Coalition of Disability Organizations in Nigeria, to conduct a study with support from the Disability Rights Fund to ask questions to what extent are these, challenges, within our airports, be it in Abuja or Lagos or other states in Nigeria.
Yeah, looking at this study, what is the scope of the study? Is it a phenomenon that exists in certain section of the country or just all the airports in Nigeria?
In fact, virtually all the airports in Nigeria are not accessible to people with disabilities. I can tell you that more than 90% of the airports, the only airport is accessible to a person with disability here in Nigeria is MM2.
Here in Lagos?
Here in Lagos. All the other airports that are being constructed are not accessible to people with disabilities. Maybe the new ones they commission at International Wing, or the new one commissioned at the International Wing in Abuja, which is not a regular airport that interstate travel using air services people with disabilities experience using. But if you go to let's look at the local wing of Abuja Airport. Recently, they just acquired buses for movement of passengers from tarmac to arrival hall. That particular bus is so hostile. Is the worst I've ever seen.
How do you mean hostile?
Great. That bus has about 3 or 4 steps for you to enter it. There is no place I've seen such bus. All the places I've traveled outside the country.
Is it a small bus or a long bus?
It's a long bus.
Okay.
Newly acquired, more than 10 pieces, by the Ministry of Aviation through a fan. Unfortunately, adequate care, it's not being taken to ensure that the bus they procure is accessible. All over the world, if you disembark from the aircraft, the buses that you see are buses that are low in terms of their levels, where there is a space for someone on wheelchair to even enter. But in this particular case, even as a person without disability, you even struggle to enter it. So I wonder who specify, who makes specifications for the type of facilities that FAN uses at the airport. Beyond that also, if you go to other airports in Nigeria, you see sometimes they even carry you, to lift you to the aircraft. What we are saying is that there is a solution for this. Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority should stop pretending there is no solution to this.
Well, looking at solutions, on January 23rd, Nigeria's President Muhammad Buhari signed into law the Discrimination Against Persons with Disabilities Prohibition Act 2018, following the 9 years of relentless advocacy. And part of the some of the things that it actually seeks to address is to establish a National Commission for Persons with Disabilities. You know about this law.
Very well.
We talked about it. So looking at January 2023 or 23rd, up until now, that makes it like 5 years, because it gave them the 5-year window for buildings and some other public offices or places to be accessible to persons with disabilities. So are you saying that some of these things that, this law is disregarded by these public facilities?
It be interesting to know that part of our study on the level of compliance to the provisions of the Disability Act in Nigeria shows that ministries, department agencies of the federal government of Nigeria are not implementing the law. Beyond the setting up of the National Commission for Persons with Disabilities, ministries responsible for various activities in this country play ignorant about this law, thereby hindering implementation. On the June 12, 2020, President Muhammad Buhari called on ministry department agencies in this country to ensure that their program activities are accessible to people with disabilities, including employment opportunities, as provided by the Act, which says that 5% of employment opportunity for public institutions must be reserved for persons with disabilities. Unfortunately, these ministries, departments, and agencies do not care about what the president is saying, making a mockery of President Muhammad Buhari's directives.
Yeah, it's one thing for you to have a law; it's another thing for it to be implemented.
Yeah.
And if you flout the provisions of the law, there has to be, or there have to be, punitive measures that will be meted out on any defaulting organization or persons, because the National Commission for Persons with Disabilities is also responsible to receive complaints of rights violation and support victims to seek legal redress, amongst other things, other issues. So, are you saying that the commission itself has not been living up to its own responsibilities?
The commission is not living up to its expectation. The challenge we have in that commission is simple. The leadership, who is the ES, is a politician who spends more than 80% of his time playing APC politics, other than focusing attention on the work at the commission. That is the challenge we had.
That's a perception.
Not perception, that is what is prevalent. Let me give you a classical example. He's just a member of the just concluded, what do you call it, organizing committee of the APC. He was a member of the, APC executive, the last executive. Yeah. He was a member of the last executive, which means that all these issues that has to do with their party, he focused more attention to that, other than the work at the commission, and that is at our own disadvantage.
How much complaints have you laid to the table?
Of course, he's aware of this. The executive secretary cannot say he's not aware. He's a person with disability, so he's aware. He knows all these issues. He knows even the people that are involved who have suffered different, abuse or the other that has to do with this. The House Committee on Persons with Disabilities at the House of Representatives is also aware. They've even called for a public hearing. The issue is that most of these MDAs are stubborn in terms of implementing the disability law. What the law provides is that there is 5 years moratorium. As I speak to you, we have spent 40 months out of the 60 months that is required for the moratorium to expire. So what it means is that between now and the next 2 years, basically 2024, we should be preparing to demand for justice to any public infrastructure that is not accessible. But why waiting for that time to come? People with disabilities must not suffer to death, especially at the airports. The only means of travel in this country today is traveling by air. Virtually anybody that wants to travel long distance, you have to go by air. So why is it that the only means of traveling safely in this country, which is by air, people with disabilities are not accessing it? And that is why we are saying that a solution is a solution. There's a solution to this issue.
Right. Part of the complaints and part of what your findings in the research that you carried out was that the behavior and attitude of airline staff, could it be because it's not favorable to the persons with disabilities?
Yeah.
So could it be as a result of inadequate training on their own part?
Of course. This part of the findings shows that they are ignorant about what people with disabilities need at the airport. They also lack capacity and capability to address the needs of people with disabilities. So we are saying that...
Is that bordering on the law itself or morality? Because normally
it's
when you see
morality.
Someone who needs...
There is NCAA rules and guidelines, which also makes robust provisions for people with disabilities access to airports. What we have found out from our report is that all these airline operators, including the people that serve with FAN and NCAA, are not trained in these particular sections of their law that regulates the activities that has to do with people with disabilities. They lack that training. And in as much as they don't build their capacity that has to do with people with disabilities interface at the airport, they will continue to struggle.
No, the reason why I asked whether it's a matter of morality, normally when you see someone who is in need, who needs help, naturally you should be able to render the help, being your brother's keeper. Assuming we don't have that laws in place, you know that this person needs help, you should ordinarily, by nature, help the other person. So what does this speak? What does this say about the way we treat ourselves as Nigerians? Is it the same treatment people or persons with disabilities from other nationalities? Is it the same treatment they are met with?
You see, in Nigeria, it has to do with our value. The value of Nigerians to people with disabilities is very, very low. We are
irrespective of their nationality.
Irrespective of nationality, here in Nigeria, discrimination is a way of life against people with disabilities. You can see a person with disabilities being discriminated. He wouldn't even know that he's being discriminated because he's used to being discriminated. Isolation is a culture here. Don't forget that bulk of the problem people with disabilities suffer is attitudinal issues, which tends to give impression that the value of people with disabilities are worthless. As such, people within the society, design and relate with them in such a manner that make them worthless. So, in terms of, behavior at the airport that has to do with people with disabilities, it is enshrined with this background of our, culture, our tradition, that discriminates people with disabilities in our communities. If you go to the training centers or in our school from kindergarten, you are being trained to discriminate against person with disability. By so doing, people with disabilities suffer more in other spheres of life, while they struggle to participate in the society. That is the major problem that is hindering people with disabilities access and participation, even receiving services on equal basis with others.
So to take care of these lapses, that's the reason why we have the rules and regulations.
Exactly.
So if these rules and regulations are actually flouted, then where lies the, what's the word? Where lies the hope for persons with disabilities? So what exactly has your organization been doing to drive your points home?
What we are doing now, to raise awareness, to tell Nigerians that this is the situation of people with disabilities, that the reason why people with disabilities suffer more is because our societies are not accessible to them. Our infrastructures are designed at the exclusion. That people with disabilities want to participate, they want to contribute. But when the environment is hostile, when the institutional provisions that need to encourage them to participate is missing, when the attitude of the community is hostile to them, they will struggle to participate in the society on equal basis with others. Part of the thing we have done is to generate this evidence to explain to Nigerians this is what is prevalent, not just in Lagos, in Bombay, in Akwa Ibom State, in Enugu State, in Kano, the same thing. That our airports are not accessible to people with disabilities. That state actors responsible for managing our airports should take adequate measure to remove these barriers. We've traveled. There was a time some of my colleagues from Nigeria, persons with disabilities, travel to other countries. They also see what happens in this country, how they are being received. A classical example was our experience in Egypt. We went to Egypt for a conference. On getting, as I'm about to, disembark from the airport, they brought a mobile wheelchair, elevator, and they brought it beside the entrance to the aircraft. And we entered that mobile elevator, and that elevator took us straight to the arrival hall without stress. Why is it we can't implement it here? How much does it cost to procure a mobile elevator that can assess a person on wheelchair, a spinal cord injured individual, to access aircraft without molestation? They also have designated places for support to people's abilities, not just on wheelchair, but sign language interpretation. If you enter the airport, if you cannot hear, you may not hear what they are saying in terms of either flight schedule or change of time frame.
But they are there in accessible formats for you.
But if they are in accessible format, whereby it is electronics, is being written on the wall, on a platform, you can go there and check and know when your flight is leaving. If there is change of flight, you can see it there and know the next time you are going to leave. All
right, because we need to ensure that this is actually stopped. That practice is actually meant to stop in this country. We need to upgrade, because that speaks to how much we are developed in the country.
Exactly.
So what recommendations would you bring to the table now? What recommendations are you going to
Our recommendation is that the Federal Minister of Aviation should conduct audit of our airports to appreciate the level of access to people with disabilities. Because it is their role and responsibility to make sure that every passenger at the airport enjoy the facilities on equal basis with others. It is their responsibility to provide all the infrastructures, all the facilities that is required to ensure access. So if they are able to conduct this audit, it will flag. But beyond that also, airline operators should train their staff on issues of persons with disabilities. The NCAA should activate the relevant section that has to do with people with disabilities access to airport services. Is their law. They need to activate it. Capacity building on the part of staff of FAN should equally be activated, because without capacity building, there is nothing you can do. Even if you have, the interest to support, if you don't know how to support, you end up abusing the individual. Just like as you get to the airport, you see individuals coming to carry you on wheelchair. At the end of the day, they inflict harm on you. But where a well-trained individual is leading the process, he won't be able to do that to you. So what we are saying is that people with disabilities should understand their rights and responsibilities. They should be able to know when to get to the airport in order for them to get to the airport on time and be able to ensure that they access these services without ordinary struggle to, not to miss their flights. So by so doing, we'll be able to ensure that people with disabilities are not discriminated at the airport. My brother, you need to see what people go through.
I can understand, and I can really, it's better left imagined than to experience. But what have you done so far to strengthen collaboration between your organization and the Federal Ministry of Aviation or airline operators?
I've been interested to know that last year I had a meeting with the minister, and I presented some of these issues to him. I called his attention on the need to remove these barriers that hinder people with disabilities from accessing the airport. And he assured me that he's not in support of any discrimination against people with disabilities. They are going to do everything possible to remove it. But when we waited 6 months thereafter, there was no changes. That was how we decided to go and conduct a study to understand the level of, provision so far. So that we can only use it to confront him, to say, Mr. Minister, this is the situation we find ourselves. These are also the solutions. Is there anything you can do about it? We're also trying to use this to engage, airport operators here in Nigeria. For us to show to them these findings and recommendations, to also, draw their attention on areas they could equally intervene in order to remove this barrier. The truth is this, my brother. Nobody is immune from getting disability.
Absolutely.
Nobody, including the chairman, including the secretary, including the minister. Nobody is immune from getting disability. If it occurs to you and you want to access the airport, what will you do? If you're under emergency health condition and you are being flown to somewhere for medical treatment, and because of these abuses at the airport, you couldn't have access, and something else happened to you, how will you feel? If it is your brother, if it is your sister, if it's your friend.
Right. Well, it's in our own general interest to ensure that people or persons with disabilities are actually taken care of. So just exactly the way we take care of people who will feel that, okay, these are human beings and they are also human beings too. That's your point this morning. Thank you.
All lives are precious.
I feel that's a convenient place for us to, to hang it at this time, because we keep talking about it until they take it very much more seriously as you really want it to be. Executive Director, Center for Citizens with Disability, David Ayaile, thank you very kindly.
Thank you so much.
All right.